Hi, I'm Phil Arnold, Department of Religion and Native American Studies at Syracuse University, also the director of the Scano Great Law Peace Center.
And I'm Rachel May, Coordinator of Sustainability Education at Syracuse University.
It is fall in Syracuse, New York, 2050. Everywhere you go, you see people outside, pedestrians and people in wheelchairs ply the well-kept sidewalks. Electric and people-powered buses pass by frequently. Children at the end of the school day join their parents and grandparents to tend neighborhood farms that grow tomatoes, corn, beans, and squash, as well as a wide variety of other produce, eggs, and honey. Or they pick apples and pears on trees in front yards along their street. If it were late winter, you would see taps on the neighborhood trees and people busily making maple syrup. At the end of the day, many people of all ages share potluck meals in the neighborhood parks.
It's a bustling, diverse city with people of all races and income classes living together in vibrant neighborhoods and supporting excellent public schools for all the children. This is a far cry from the Syracuse of 35 years ago in 2015, when it topped the list of American cities for concentrated poverty and racial segregation, and the high schools celebrated when graduation rates reached a measly 50%. The poorest neighborhoods had high vacancy rates, large numbers of boarded-up houses, and serious problems with gang violence.
What happened to create this transformation?
It was the Roots Project, a comprehensive effort to teach children and their parents to look down and appreciate the land beneath their feet. They discovered the deep human roots of the place they were living, the ancestral lands of the Onondaga Nation, in the epicenter of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, where the Great Law of Peace first came into being. They discovered the intense passion for freedom and equality embodied in this place, where the leaders of the emancipation and women's rights movements had taken their brave stands. And they discovered that even now, refugees from terrible wars around the world were finding their way to Syracuse and setting down new, grateful roots in the welcoming soil and temperate climate of central New York.
They began to see the vacant properties and crumbling roads not as a sign of decay, but an opportunity to reclaim the land for nurturing these roots. The Great Law of Peace taught that the land was a being to be respected and honored with gratitude, not written off or neglected. Likewise, the abundance of fresh water in the area was reimagined not as just too much rain or snow, but as a remarkable gift in an increasingly arid world. And the Onondagas reminded everyone that the polluted streams and the Onondaga Lake Superfund site were still sacred sites and relatives to be cherished.
The Onondaga Nation and their allies in the region had begun much earlier to lay the groundwork for this transformation. A lawsuit in the 1990s had forced the county and the chemical industry to begin addressing pollution in Onondaga Lake. This yielded some creative and thoughtful changes, like restoration of wetlands along the margins of the lake and a creek walk along Onondaga Creek that helped local people find much more affection for these long blighted waterways. By 2016, eagles and herons were plentiful in the restored wetlands along the lake shore.
Another result of the lawsuit was an injunction on the county to reduce polluted stormwater runoff into the lake. This initially resulted in a plan for several small sewage holding facilities in the midst of low-income neighborhoods. After concerted opposition from environmental justice organizations, the county instead instituted its Save the Rain program in 2008 to use green infrastructure to capture rainwater in uphill areas before it could overwhelm the sewer system downstream. As the Save the Rain program gathered steam, the Onondaga Earth Corps was created to train young people to build rain gardens, plant trees, and otherwise care for the urban environment. They received payment as they became increasingly skilled. thus giving them not only a small income, but job experience and a sense of self-worth and independence.
Starting in 2012, the Greater Syracuse Land Bank began taking title to vacant properties and finding new owners who could do them justice, including in 2016 the first urban farm and a builder of tiny homes for the homeless.
These piecemeal efforts were important, but they required a framework to support real citywide transformation. Enter the Roots Project, an effort to bring a true urban land ethic to the vision for Syracuse. The Roots Project would build upon the fundamental principles that are based in SCANO, Great Law of Peace Center, which opened in 2015 on the shore of Onondaga Lake, where is taught the idea that SCANO is a basis for peace and wellness. That is, peace that comes when human beings are in proper balance with the natural world.
The fundamental concepts of the Roots Project were as follows. First, gratitude. Fundamental to Haudenosaunee culture is the idea of the words that come before all else. Every formal meeting begins with a Thanksgiving address, an invocation of gratitude and obligation to all the forces of nature that make our lives possible. The constant repetition from early childhood onward of our duty to gratitude to the earth, the waters, the sun, moon, and stars, the wind and thunderers, the plants and animals, our teachers and other people, makes that feeling of gratitude real and prompts us to act in ways that reinforce their value, rather than just exploiting them as resources to be used up. Research shows that expressing gratitude can lead to real shifts in emotional relationships, physical health, and behavior.
Second, reciprocity. The Haudenosaunee teach that every being has its duties and responsibilities, whether it be the wind's duty to bring the rain or the sun's duty to help the plants grow. Humans have the duties of gratitude and reciprocity, giving back to the natural world. This may entail planting and nurturing crops, or not over-harvesting their produce, or keeping the waters clean, and making sure they have room to flow or flood.
Seventh generation decision making. A Haudenosaunee chief promises to base decisions on their impact on the seventh generation yet to come. In other words, they need to think a century or more into the future. Such a time horizon is unfamiliar, even anathema to those making quarterly shareholder reports or running for re-election every 2 or 4 years. The Roots Project therefore requires everyone to take part in decision making, or at least in communicating to decision makers their wishes for the long term. One outcome of this in Syracuse was a decision that vacant lands, as they were reclaimed for food production or recreation, would be owned by the whole community and governed by a multi-generational board. The board looked at all the land in the city and judged many roads to be unnecessary for cars, so they were repurposed as urban greenways with bike and pedestrian paths and room for more planting.
Equity and equality. To honor the heritage of abolitionism and women's rights, the Roots Project included the radical concept that all Syracusans deserved equity and every child in Syracuse mattered. Say Yes to Education started in the early 21st century to prepare Syracuse school children from an early age to be ready for college, and then promised them free tuition to certain colleges if they graduated from high school. The Roots Project went further, connecting each school child to a college-educated mentor or vocational mentor, and offering a nest egg to those who graduated from college and chose to stay in Syracuse and pay it forward to the next generation.
As the city became known for valuing its children and investing in their future, As the schools became attuned toward teaching strong values in a spirit of gratitude and mutual respect, as the neighborhoods became known for walkability and safety, suburbanites flocked back into the city limits. They surprised themselves by choosing to join the neighborhoods with lots of green space and vibrant urban farms, where their kids could get work experience and have strong elder mentors, which were the same neighborhoods that had previously been subject to the worst urban blight. They left behind their lawnmowers in favor of having yards that produced fruits, vegetables, and flowers that could be sold or shared at the weekly city farm market. They downsized their homes and lived more simply with less stress, because so much was shared in the neighborhood: tools, knowledge, even many meals. The ethnic makeup of the city became more balanced and integrated, the tax base rose significantly, and Syracuse began to look the way it does today in 2050.
This is a thought experiment, but it extends a number of processes that are already in motion and borrows, credibly, from many models and sources. In addition to the long experience of the Onondaga Nation, and it applies and shares indigenous environmental knowledge to its urban neighbors in Syracuse.
The Center for Humans and Nature hosted an online symposium a few years ago on the question, how is nature critical to a 21st century urban ethic? Dr. Stuart Pickett of the Carey Institute of Ecosystem Studies wrote of the need for a combined, quote, urban natural ethic that would raise urban quality of life and create conditions that were less stressful, more restorative, less susceptible to disturbances, and less vulnerable to effects of climate change, end quote.
In the same online symposium, Audrey Peterman detailed several successful experiments with the simultaneous rehabilitation of natural processes and distressed urban communities, and even of prison populations. In addition to Majoris Carter's Sustainable South Bronx initiative, she cites two others. In Chicago, Brenda Palms Barber established the company Sweet Beginnings, which provides a way to successfully rehabilitate former prisoners and give them opportunities to connect with the natural world while creating sustainable products and generating income. In Texas, Jared Manos' Restoration Not Incarceration program is providing opportunities for former prisoners to discover their own self-worth as they work to rehabilitate the Texas prairie.
The city of Curitiba in Brazil is a remarkable example of the broad application of a strong ethic of urban environmental justice. When he became mayor, Jaime Lerner had a vision for transforming one of the poorest cities in the country into a place of hope. A report in the journal Ecologist in 2014 shows how the city has become, quote, one of the most prosperous cities in Latin America, end quote, by providing extensive public transportation, by its low-cost bus rapid transit system, green jobs, and more green space per capita than any city in the world.
In fact, Latin America has seen a continent-wide indigenous-inspired movement for urban social change. It is most commonly called Buen Vivir, or living well. Eduardo Guyanas writes, quote, the richness of the term is difficult to translate into English. It includes the classical ideas of quality of life, but with the specific idea that well-being is only possible within a community. Furthermore, in most approaches, the community concept is understood in a well-being and in an expanded sense to include nature. Buen Vivir therefore embraces the broad notion of well-being and cohabitation with others and nature. In this regard, the concept is also plural, as there are many different interpretations depending on cultural, historical, and ecological setting, unquote. The concept clearly has much in common with the Haudenosaunee approach to sustainability. It is no coincidence that their term for a healthy human relationship with other beings, human or otherwise, is the good mind.
There are many examples of ways that integrating a culture of gratitude and reciprocity with the natural world improves human health and culture. We believe an urban land ethic grounded in these values could be the balm that can heal wounded cities like Syracuse.